Nigeria's Minister of Agriculture, Abubakar Kyari, announced that 309 billion naira was injected into the economy through agricultural initiatives, part of President Bola Tinubu's food security efforts. Now, highlights include cultivating 118,657 hectares of wheat in 15 states, distributing 58,500 metric tons of milled rice to curb prices, and fortifying crops with vitamin A. The government also provided 60,432 metric tons of improved seeds and 62,328 metric tons of fertilizers to boost production. Despite these efforts, smallholder farmers still face challenges due to ineffective fund distribution. Now, at this time, Adetiloye Aiyeola, CEO, Produce Export Development Alliance, joins me to talk more about this. Thank you so much, Adetiloye, for joining us in our studios.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
So let's start this way. I'd like to get your thoughts. What do you think are the major challenges that that Nigeria's agriculture sector is facing in terms of output and, of course, ensuring food security? And I want to believe that you listened to the Minister of Agriculture yesterday during the ministerial press briefing. What are your thoughts as regards what he said and the trajectory of this sector?
Well, I think that the minister himself is very serious, and they're taking, food security. They're, re-emphasizing food security as a base for national security. In the last 1 year, there's been a number of initiatives, though their success has been quite, controversial. But there's been a number of initiatives. Some farmers have actually gotten fertilizers in several states of the country. There's been a re-emphasizing on agro-processing, both for small and medium scale and large agro-processing. At the same time, too, there's also been more focus on irrigation and, I know there's a digitalization process for farmers to get registered in. There's so many things that have really been proposed and, starting to be implemented by this ministry. However, there's still lots of things to be done. Inflation is at skyrocket high right now, and then there's a lot of tendency for it to really get to spiral than it currently is right now, based on what obtains on ground. Insecurity, or the feeling of insecurity, is very prevalent among farming communities. Some farming communities would rather, just stay put where they are than really try to get, into farming. Another thing is the price of inputs. Input cost is really taking a toll on production. If you were a farmer 2 years ago, let's just say about a year ago, you would find out that if you're cultivating 10 hectares, now you'll probably be able to do just only 4 for the same resource that you were previously doing. That shows the level at which the cost of inputs has skyrocketed. That's really is one of the major drivers of this inflation, because farmers are only producing very, very small as respect to what we usually always produced before. Another thing is, I know there isn't so much been. This is not usually always talked about. We always focus on food production, farming, output. We also need to consider the post-harvest implications of what we do as a country. What's the point in farming cultivating crops for very high cost, only for you to lose about 33 or more than 33% from the farm gates to the market? It's sad that we don't really address some of these key factors like post-harvest handling operations, transportation operations, even rural distribution roads. So we have to. I think that the minister and the Ministry of Agriculture are really doing a lot, but are they really addressing the key areas? And what about the speed of implementation of some of these policies?
So talking about addressing the key areas, we see that the minister mentioned about 309 billion naira are being injected into the sector through the agri economy, through the agri initiatives. Now, don't you think that in a way would solve some of these perennial problems that you've mentioned? Because, of course, we're still talking about food security and having enough produce for exports, ensuring that the value chains are optimal and the country can gain appreciable revenue from this. So would you say that this particular amount being put into the sector would change the narrative in any way?
All right. I think that, again, like I said, the ministry is very serious about food security in the country. And I just think that the major challenge, I've heard the fund that has been budgeted for this. The major challenge is in the implementation. Are real farmers, I mean, people who are waking up every day, going to their farm, thinking about food production, are they really going to see that? Are they going to experience? Are they going to be impacted by these funds? The initiatives are really laudable, but what about the speed of implementation? Because as a country right now, we do not have. We are in a state of for food, it's an alarming situation right now. And we need to act very, very, very fast. My concern with all of this is the speed at which it will be implemented and how judiciously those funds are going to be used to benefit the producing, distribution, logistics, and post-harvest class.
Well, a part of what the federal government is trying to bring up to speed or actually implement is the dry season farming initiative, and I want to believe that you are aware of that. And they've talked about the cultivation of about 118,657 hectares of wheat. So what's your assessments? So we are going to start breaking it down in bits now.
Yes.
Let's start from here. What's your assessment of this particular initiative coming on board?
I'm glad that we started to talk about dry season farming. It is very, very essential. We have to extend and maximize our production seasons. It has to be a thing of national priority to bring in dry season farming as a way of growing crops. So yes, it is very, very. These are the things that we really need to start saying. I think that the introduction of the dry season farming will go a long way to helping us become more food secure. The allocation of land, over 100,000 hectares to wheat production, would help us reduce the impact of importation of this wheat into the country. Because ever since the Russian war on Ukraine has started in 2022, we can see the price of staple food increase systematically across the country, and that's because we import some of our a percentage of our wheat from these countries, all right? And due to global disruption in supply chain, we're experiencing high cost and importing this wheat. Now, growing wheat in the country, wheat that can really stand our climate would really go a long way in helping to. So I'm very optimistic and I'm very hopeful that these initiatives, especially the dry season farming and the wheat production, would help us, to a large extent, bolster up our ability to feed our population effectively. I also know that we're going to get to that particular point where we start to export. That is going to be the main gain, because it would help us reduce our reliance on fossil fuel exports and help us gain that much needed foreign revenue that we greatly need as a country.
Okay, so let's talk about food inflation now. It has reached a new high of about 53%.
Yeah.
And, well, in the last 1 year, we see the federal government distributing about 58,500 metric tons of milled rice. But then I'd like you to talk to us about the significance of this particular initiative, because it seems as though nothing has really changed, despite that the government is trying to do so much in this regards. Is there a missing link, or is there something that the government can do in a more effective way to achieve food sustainability and food stability?
Well, I agree. There's so much that this government can do. The food inflation, in the country is it's an alarming 40%. That is very. A basket of tomatoes in my 12 last week was sold for over 150,000 naira. Something that would most of the time be around 60,000 naira. That shows the level of escalation. There's several reasons for this. Without understanding the reasons for this, we might not be able to really prefer a solution or recommendation. First, there is the issue of high cost of production, which we've obviously talked about. There's insecurity as well, or the feeling of insecurity for most producers. Then there's the challenge of post-harvest losses, right? So if you grow 100 crops, 100 kg of something, and then you transport, and you're only able to deliver maybe 56%, that's a revenue loss that will be passed over to the consumer. Another thing is the fuel scarcity, right? For most people in Nigerian cities, that is not obvious. That's not obvious now, because we cannot really see the effects now. But it's affecting very remote areas, very high production communities of the country. Right? So the cost of energy as well, fuel for farmers to move, to take in inputs into the farm, and also bring produce out of the farm, even to their neighboring farmers markets, also would impact this cost. So these are the major things that's affecting inflation in the country. Now, I like the fact that they're looking at this and trying to address it very critically. But at the same time, my concern is the speed of implementation, because those funds are, like you said, those grain reserves that has been released to the country. Well, where are they? What impact do they have, on your table? What impact do they have on my table? Remember that agriculture is not about crops; it's about people. Essentially, it's about people. Ensuring that people are very catered for, can able to afford 3 square meals in a day. These are the issues. These are the concerns.
Well, it seems as though the challenges in the agri sector is more or less like a long list, but I want to believe it's not as though they can't be surmounted. Now, let's look at it from the angle of what the minister, Abubakar Kyari, said, and he said that the Nigerian government is trying as much as possible right now to strengthen institutions like NADF, universities, research institutes, colleges of agriculture, to enhance agricultural production, food security, and export potential. So that is on the side, coupled with the other challenges that you have raised. So if we begin to have investments focus in these areas of research and finding lasting solutions, do you think it can, in a way, help find solutions to these issues and stem the tide of, these perennial challenges that we are having, that is drawing back the gains that we should have recorded in the sector?
I absolutely agree. What I think is the challenges with the agricultural industry as a whole can really be solved. Well, it might take us a while to actually put in systems that will ensure that things like this do not happen. But it will actually, by most of what you mentioned, right? Concentrated efforts, a clear focus, which is something I like about this. They are very focused on food security, right? So that's very commendable. The fact that they are focused, right? But again, it's going to take a while for us to really stem the tides of, because there's several stakeholders involved, there's several players involved, And it will really take a while for everybody to really get on the table and ensure that is one thing, however, that I see that it's not being really talked about much. I listened to a part of what he has said is the post-harvest operation process. We as a country has always focused on food production, food production, food production. It's about time that we take a step back and say, all this food we have been producing, how did they get to the people that consume them? What's our bottleneck? What's our process? What's the post-harvest handling operation process? What's the logistics handling process operation? Where's the packaging that ensures that we don't lose produce? All right, I think that's one area that is missing that we need to consider to solve this problem.
And I guess this speaks more to smallholder farmers or smallholder farming, as the case may be, and the question around if it should be more mechanized or we should just stick with structured farming, because I believe that at the end of the day will determine what is being produced, how it's being produced, and how it gets to the final consumer. So I'd like you to speak more on that, because if we're trying to ensure food security, we need to consider all the aspects along the value chain to see how we can improve on harvest and what we're able to make available to the markets, probably for export too.
Yes. All right. So I've always maintained a position that smallholder farming has to graduate from small to at least medium or large. We cannot be parroting the narrative of smallholder for this many years. All right. When are these smallholders going to graduate? What are the systems that are going to be put in place for them to become from smallholders to large? Because look, in order to develop our agro-industrial base, we cannot rely on smallholder farmers. Yes, I know a large population of our country, all right, is involved in agriculture. What are you going to do about that? I am of the opinion that with mechanization, which would obviously, come from thinking more large-scale farming, with mechanization, we'll be able to drive productivity. We'll be able to free up some farm or rural labor to the next level, which is value addition, which is first level processing, which can also be done on the farm or in farming communities. We definitely by thinking large farmers, large scale farmers, we will definitely be able to not just only feed our country, our population, also develop our agro-industrial base, which is very critical, and also be able to provide more jobs and economic prosperity for rural areas. I see that the only way to go, and more emphasis on only way to go, is large mechanized production. All right, where several 1 hectare, 2 hectares, 3 hectare farm come together, merger into it. It brings down, it significantly helps them in the economics of scale. Hiring a tractor for a 150 hectare farm is much more efficient, driving cost lower than for just maybe 10 hectares. This is one of the reasons why you don't see some of these new technologies like tractorization infiltrate itself into small communities, because they just simply don't have that economics of scale. We need to be able to think larger. I think that the ministry should especially, yes, we need to focus on our smallholder farmers, yes, but we need to have a strategic plan and framework for graduating those smallholder farmers to much more larger. They should graduate. We should graduate. We shouldn't be on 1 hectare farming, subsistence farming, to feed our population. In the next 30 years, we're going to almost literally double.
Well, I understand how passionate you are about this. Earlier on, you talked about introducing technology into agri-processing in the country. People will question if Nigeria has attained capacity in that likes. You've spoken about it briefly, but then, of course, we'll look at the issue around introduction of hydroponics and greenhouse farming. I'd like to speak about how possible this will be, the potential benefits, and what the government must do to get to this state so as to grow the infrastructure base, grow the expertise base, whatever it is that needs to be done to improve that particular aspect of agriculture.
Thank you very much. I speak for the horticulture subsector of the agricultural space at this time. You know, technology is not only digital technology. Technology is anything that can really bring efficiency, that can rapidly improve productivity. Now, one of the major technologies that we have for agriculture are new systems like hydroponics, new systems like greenhouse farming that can efficiently use resources, all right, to maximize outputs. That is what technology essentially is. And I see the fact that I want to encourage the Ministry of Agriculture to look at these new technologies and say, how can we help this technology assimilate faster into our local production systems? Because a greenhouse would essentially outproduce times 4 of what's on open field farming, and you know it would efficiently use resources to maximize outputs. Even though the major challenge why it's not been it has not really become widespread is the initial cost of entry. That's the cost of setting up some of those systems. Yes, for some smallholder farmers, you know, for most smallholder farmers, that cost is too high, right? I see that there should be, but then there are several things that they can do. The initiatives of backyard farming, we need to bring that back. That is also a technology, right? Because it really transform virtually almost every household into a production center. All right, and you know, for some of these households, they're going to want to invest in hoop houses. They're going to want to invest in greenhouses. They're going to want to invest in, you know, some form of hydroponics, which is what we should be driving. If we have a population that is a large percent of our population that is growing food, then we should literally empower them to do more. These technologies are one of the ways to really empower, and it will really private businesses, associations, corporations might not be able to do so much in this regard. Only the Ministry of Agriculture, the government, will be able to really pull their weight for some significant results to be seen.
Well, I guess a whole lot of this conversation has been around funding, drawing up plans,
yes,
and of course some speedy implementation of these plans if Nigeria is hoping to upscale its agric industry. Well, like I said earlier, 309 billion naira has been expended towards revamping the sector. We don't know how far that will go and what that will be able to achieve.
Yes.
But then I think it's just one step in the right direction, and we hope that that will actually do justice to what the current administration is trying to achieve in Nigeria as regards that sector. Adetiloye Aiyeola, CEO, Produce Export Development Alliance, thank you so much for your time on the show.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.